Hello and welcome to the ISO 27001 Lead Implementer course, proudly presented by Sheyakilide Consultancy in partnership with Smart Comply Academy. Introduction to ISO 27001. But before we dive into the course, let's take a look at who am I. My name is Oluwaseyi Akilide. I'm a cybersecurity specialist and trainer. I've been in cybersecurity for over a decade now, and my area of expertise spans across information security, audits, network security, cloud security, cybersecurity management, which also encompass vulnerability management, solution integration, and lots more. I've been able to work in different industries. I've worked in telecommunication industry. I've worked in consulting services. I've worked in educational services as well. So when it comes to gaining the adequate knowledge to be able to understand how this course works and being able to implement the knowledge you're going to gain in real life, then I'll say that you're in the right place. Okay, so let's take a look at what it's our learning objective. At the end of this lesson, you'll be able to explain what ISO 27001 is, provide an overview of ISO 27001 and its evolution over time, also identify the reasons why organizations require ISO 27001 for information security. And finally, we're going to distinguish between the previous version, which is ISO 27001, 2013 version, and 2022 version. All right, with much further ado, let's dive in. Okay, so what is ISO? ISO stands for the International Organization for Standardization, an independent, non-governmental international organization that develops and publishes standards for a wide range of industries. These standards are intended to ensure the quality, safety, efficiency, and interoperability of products, services, and systems across the globe. Now, what does this simply mean? This just simply means that an organization is responsible for ensuring that organizations are operationalize or use a set of rules to guide their operations as to how they manage, protect, and safeguard information security systems, or depending on the type of industry that they apply to, use these different standards to ensure standardization as to how they go about their operations. And this standard speaks to a set of rules and guidance that allows organizations to achieve their objectives. Now, each of the organizations have different objectives, and this is where ISO plays a major role. So, ISO is tailored to meet every type of industry, to standardize the operations in terms of using specific rules to guide those industries in how they go about their day-to-day operations. Okay, so let's take a look at ISO range of standards and their application across industries. Now, ISO provide multiple standards for multiple industries. However, in this course, I'm just going to focus on these six and then pivot down to ISO 27001, which is the main goal of this particular course. So ISO 9001 speaks for quality management systems. And what this does is that it's a standard that helps organizations to consistently meet customers and regulatory needs while focusing on continuous improvement. So typical examples that leverage on using quality management is the manufacturing industries. So your manufacturing industries ensures that they leverage on using this quality management to ensure that the quality of their product is suitable for customers' usage. So construction industries, food and beverage industries, they usually, get certified with ISO 9001. And this ensures that customers know that, okay, for you to have been certified with 9001 means that the quality of your product is second to none. So your product would have gone through multiple checks, multiple standards to ensure that the standard of your product is actually suitable for the customer's use. Okay, so ISO 14001, which is for environmental management, it also ensures that organizations manage and improve their environmental performance, ensuring compliance and reducing their environmental impact. So this speaks to oil and gas industry, energy and utilities, and also manufacturing companies as well, that has to do with ensuring that the product or the byproduct of their product doesn't have negative impact on the environment. So oil and gas industry will always ensure that their regulatory or their compliance with ISO 14001. So if you notice in my description, you notice that a particular industry might also be compliant with multiple ISO standards. So meaning that for example, a manufacturing company would definitely want to ensure that they are certified with ISO 14001 and ISO 9001, which is quality management and environmental management. So the fact that 9001 speaks to quality management and speaks to specific industry doesn't mean that if you operate in an organization, if you operate within these multiple industries or you span across multiple industries, then it is expedient that you certify with some of these ISO standards as well. All right, so let's go into ISO 27001, which is ISMS, Information System Management System, Information Security Management System. And what it does is that it ensures that organization outline a framework for managing and protecting sensitive information through a structured risk management process to ensure confidentiality, integrity, and availability. And the bedrock of ISMS is to ensure that organization information system ensures confidentiality, integrity, and availability. We're going to look into that. We're going to speak specifically. I'm going to be speaking specifically to that in subsequent modules as well. But for confidentiality, is just to ensure that only authorized users can gain access to specific information. And then for integrity, it means that your information is not modified during transit depending on the state of the data. And also for availability, it means that your data was always available for use as at when needed. That's what availability speaks. So we're going to dive deeper into all of those in subsequent modules. And what are the different industries that make use of ISO 27001? As well known is IT and software companies, your IT-based organizations, your financial institutions, your banks, healthcare systems, telecommunication industries, because they make use of personal identifiable information, which is called PII. It allows organizations are mandated to ensure that those information that they retrieve from their customers is actually protected. Okay. Now let's take a look at ISO 27017, which speaks to cloud security. So ISO 20017 provides guidelines for implementing security controls in cloud environments, ensuring clear responsibilities and protecting data for both cloud providers and customers. So a typical example of this is your typical cloud service providers, your AWS, and also users that they also customers. Cloud customers are also examples of those that ensure that ISO, that the organization that they're transacting with, in terms of cloud service provider, leverage on using ISO 27017. And I don't want to go deeper into that, but there's something we call shared model responsibility, whereby the cloud service provider has specific responsibility and also the customer has specific responsibilities. So these cloud security controls speaks to those shared model responsibility, ensuring that cloud service providers maintain the controls that they need to put in place, which is part of their shared model responsibility. And also cloud customers also speaks to the kind of control that they need to put in place to ensure that they secure their own, that they take responsibility under the shared model responsibility in the cloud model. Okay. Another one is ISO 31000, which speaks to risk management. And it's a guideline that develops a structured risk management framework, helping organizations to identify, assess, and manage risk while aligned with the strategic goals. So the objective of risk management is to help organization identify risk, come up with a risk management, risk treatment plan, and to ensure that they identify the risk and they appropriate specific controls or appropriate the right controls or mitigation plan to the risk that they've identified as well. So risk management also speaks to, so typical example of organizations that use risk management or comply with ISO 31000 is, your your financial institutions, your bank, technology organizations, telecommunication organizations as well, also ensures that they're compliant with that. So it ensures that organizations are compliant with using the appropriate risk management framework to be able to identify and mitigate against risk that poses threats to the organization. And then finally is ISO 27032, which speaks to cybersecurity. So now this helps organizations to address the risk in cyberspace and promoting collaboration among stakeholders to protect information and critical infrastructure from cyber threats. So now most organizations that are involved or that are involved in cyberspace, you have your business running in the cloud, or you're posed to cyber threats, the ISO 27032 is definitely something you should consider, because most organizations that have a cybersecurity program would definitely be using these guidelines to be able to build their program. And the program, would cut across threat intelligence, vulnerability management, risk management as well, especially when it comes to cyberspace. So these six different ranges speaks to multiple different industries, and you can have an industry that cuts across that needs to be certified to each of these six different ranges of standards that I've spoken about. So there are other standards that you might need to be very familiar with, but I'm just narrowing my scope to ensure that I don't go off course and just maintain this specific, just provide a little bit of guidance into these few specific standards that I've also mentioned. Okay, so having looked at all the different six standards I spoke about in the previous slides, so what exactly is ISO 27001? And like I said, the ISO 27001 is an international standard that provides the requirement for establishing, implementing, maintaining, and continuously improving an information security management system. Maintaining and continuously improving an information security management system is what the ISO standard is all about. So the ISO standards leverages different components to be able to achieve that. And one of the major components that it leverages on is it's called Annex. So we have what we call Annex. So the Annex has 93 controls. And each of those 93 controls is spanned into four different categories. Okay. And the first categories is organization, people, technological, logical, and physical. Okay, so each of your organization would always find as all of these four different components. So each of these four components has multiple controls that has been implemented in place to ensure that you can establish, implement, and maintain, and also provide continuous improvement of your information security system. So in the course of this module as well, we're going to be diving deeper into each of these different categories and looking at the annexes, looking at different areas that would compass or comes together that allow you to be able to build an information security management system. Now, the goal of the standard is to help organizations to manage the security of information assets, ensuring the confidentiality, okay, the integrity and the availability of sensitive information, whether it is in digital form, printed or otherwise. Now, the work of this is what we call CIA. Okay, so C there stands for the confidentiality, the I there stands for integrity, and the A stands for availability. So the basic or the bedrock by which ISMS is built on these three foundational principles. So confidentiality, ensuring that only authorized users or authorized system can have access to can be able to have access to information, specific information. And then confidential integrity ensures that the information or the system handling those information is not modified. Is not doesn't provide You don't have any authorized modification on those. And then the last one, availability, ensures that we ensure that those sensitive information is always available at any time. So this is what ISO 27001 speaks to, and ISO standard provides you with the guidelines on how to build an effective information security management system. Okay. Okay. So our second objective is to look at overview of ISO 27001 and its evolution over time. Okay, so how did ISO 27001 started? Where did it start from, or what are the key components of ISO 27001? So ISO 27001 started majorly in 1995 under the British council, and then they call it British Standard. So the BS there stands for British Standard, and 7799, which refers to the foundation of ISO 27001. So the goal is to ensure that organizations standardize how they secure information, how they secure information systems. So that was where it started from within the UK, in the UK region. It started in 1995 in the UK region, and then it became globally adopted in 2005, which they released their first document, which is ISO 27001, 2005. So that's the year it was actually released. And that was where it introduced risk-based management for information security using the PDCA model. So for somebody that is just hearing about the PCDA model for the first time, so the PCDA speaks for, it definitely speaks to, anyways, this, give me a second to get this off the board. So the PCDA simply speaks to plan. So it's a model that allows you to be able to ensure that it's a systematic approach to also implement ISMS. So the first thing there is the PDCA simply speaks to plan. Okay, this speaks to the planning, and then the D speaks to do, and then C speaks to check, which has to do with monitor and review. Okay, when we do monitor and review, and then A seeks to act. This is where we actually look at how do we improve the process. Okay, so this is the first time that the plan, do, check and act model was introduced. So the D speaks to implement and operate. Okay, where we do implement and operate. So we're going to see how this PDCA model aligns to this ISO 27001 company. Remember in the previous slide, I spoke about all of these different clauses. So this is where we have those clauses and what those clauses actually speak to. Okay. So it's actually quite, it's really not that complex, so to speak. It's just understanding each of these different clauses and looking at how you can implement appropriate controls within each of these different clauses. Okay, so like I said, it started in 1995, which is under the British standard. So the BS there stands for British Standards, the British standard. Okay, in 1995, and then it evolved to 2013, which was, this is the last previous, this is the second edition, and this is the latest edition. Okay, so we're focusing more on the latest edition. So most organizations that have been implementing ISO, back then from 2013, were using the ISO 27000 or 2013 standards. And so now most organizations that have been on 13 now are implementing, are trying to update or ensure that they're compliant with the 2022 standard. Okay, so in terms of the standard, the same structure applies majorly, but there's just a little bit of differences, especially for 2013 2022, which we're going to get to in the next slide. But the most important thing is, the major focus is in the number of controls. So here we had 113 controls, and those 113 has now been reduced to 93 controls, and then those controls spans across 4 different categories, or we call it clauses. Okay, so those clauses, like I mentioned, is the organizational. Just for recap, we call it organizational. Okay, organizational, people, physical, and then we have technological. Okay, so each of them span from clauses 5 to 8. Okay, so now let's go deeper into your ISO 27001. So this is the key component. We'll call it more like, we'll call it the structure. So this is the structure of your ISMS when it comes to the key component of ISO 27000. So the first thing is the scope. Scope speaks to um, where do you want to implement your ISO. So if you have multiple organizations, for example, let's say you have an organization in India, you have another one in New York, you have another one in France, for example. So the scope speaks to where in these different regions do you want to implement your ISO, your ISMS. Okay, so this is what the scope speaks to, and then the normative reference speaks to the different where exactly are you looking at? You know, the reference are you trying to look at when it comes to implementing the scope as well for ISMS. And the terms and definitions speaks to your terms, the different terms that is being used, different acronyms that is being used within the ISMS document. So you have them in your terms and definitions. So this is what you would usually get when you purchase your ISO 27001 document, okay, from ISO 2022. This is the structure of how the document is being laid out. So the next thing is the context of your organization. So this is what we call, this is what you have clauses for. I spoke to the context of organization speaks to what the organization is all about. That's what the context of the organization speaks to. And then you have clause 5, which speaks to leadership. Okay, this is the role of leadership when it comes to implementing your ISM. And then this is clause 6, planning. So we call this clause 6. Okay, support. This is where you look at resources, your competence, your awareness, communication, documentation. This is what we call clause 7. Okay, operations, this is clause 8. And then performance evaluation is clause 9. Okay, and then improvement is what we call clause 10. Okay, and now just to summarize this particular slide is that you have your Annex A. So your Annex A has a total of 93 controls. Okay, across these 4 different clauses. So we have organizational. Okay, we have your people, we have physical, and we have technological. Okay, so this is where you have from clause, this speaks to from clause 5, so clause 6, clause 7, and clause 8. Okay, so that's where all of the different clauses speak to. Okay, so let's move to the next slide. Okay, so now the next objective in this lesson is reasons organizations require ISO 27001 for information security. Okay, so the first thing to look. All right, so what are the reasons why organizations require ISO 27001 for information security? One of the reasons is for risk management. Okay, so in looking at information security, when it comes to implementing your ISMS, one of the things is this speaks more to clause 6. Okay, so risk management speaks to how do you identify risk, right? How do you identify risk? So to do this, we have to look at your risk management plan, your risk management plan, risk management plan, okay, which determines how do you identify your risk, okay, and then how do you respond to the risk. So we call it risk management plan, as I said, and then your risk, there's something we also call risk treatment plan, okay. So when it comes to identifying risks, there are different ways we could do that. We could look at it from a quantitative point of view or from a qualitative point of view. Okay, so qualitative speaks to identifying risks that would affect your reputation, that will allow you to lose customer trust. Okay, lose customer trust. So this qualitative speaks to it. It's not tangible. Okay, not tangible type of risk. Okay, and then for qualitative speaks to risks that will affects the financial of the organization. Okay, so things that happens, let's say if there's a earthquake, for example, how does it affect your business? So looking at it from a financial point of view, how much of dollars or thousands of billions of dollars are you going to lose? So if a particular risk happens to your organization, how will it affect your reputation. So that's where the quantitative speaks to finance in terms of financial value, and then qualitative speaks to non-tangible type of response, like your reputation. Nobody can see reputation, nobody can see customer trust. So that's where that actually speaks to. And then from a treatment point of view, the treatment point of view speaks to how do you treat this risk that has been identified. And then one of them, there are four ways majorly known. So we have risk avoidance. First thing is to avoid the risk. The second thing is to mitigate. Okay. The third thing is to transfer. And the fourth one is to accept. Okay, so your risk mitigation plan would definitely your risk treatment plan would definitely be a combination of how do you identify risk, and then how do you also respond to risk. So the methodology by which you go about doing that, so the different risk methodology you could use. You could use the risk methodology from RMF rather, from NIST. You could use the risk management framework to do that. You could use ISO 100 to do that. You could also use the risk management program from TOGAF, if I'm not mistaken. So the different risk methodologies you can actually make use of to be able to address risk management. So it provides you with that guideline as to how to do that. And the annexes provide a couple of controls that will help you to implement your risk management process. Okay. And then regulatory compliance. So ensuring that you're compliant with ISO 27001 is one of the reasons why organizations require ISO for information security, because you have to be compliant with ISO 27001. And this actually spills to enhancing your reputation and your trust. Now, an organization that is supposedly compliant with ISO 27001 means that it has met the requirement to be able to safeguard information systems. Okay, so that is one of the requirements that your regulatory compliance provides, and then it helps to enhance your reputation and your trust with your customers. So most customers or most clients or most businesses will rather prefer to do business with an organization that is ISO compliant than an organization that is not ISO compliant. Now, I don't have the stats to provide additional context to that, but from my experience in communicating with organizations and communicating with industry leaders, organizations have more competitive advantage when you are actually ISO compliant as compared to not being ISO compliant. And then it also provides you with a structured approach to improve your existing system. And this is where we're going to be looking at things like non-conformities to ensure that your organization is conforms with the regulatory standard as well. So these are the top 5 reasons why organizations require ISO 27001. But the top of them all, one of the things that organizations, the core reason why they're doing that majorly haven't fulfilled some of these, most of these reasons, is to build reputation and trust, and also to have competitive advantage with their competitors. So organizations do fairly well, especially if they are ISO compliant as compared to organizations that are not ISO compliant. So it's also very imperative that organizations seek to be compliant with ISO, because it demonstrates a enhancing reputation and trust, and then it provides competitive advantages, because it's actually an investment though, because the budget has to be allocated from top management, resources needs to be implemented. You have to pay, get the standard, pay the external auditors and the organization that will provide you with the certification. So it's a lot of investment for the organization. The organization will definitely want to have a return on investment. And one of that return on investment is to have a competitive advantage, and also to enhance reputation and also trust, so that they can, get the trust from the customer, so they can have more businesses to do as well. Okay, so let's proceed. Okay, so let's take a look at the difference. So the fourth objective is to look at the difference between ISO 27001, the 23 version, which is the second version, and the latest version as well. Okay, so let's take a look at it from a structure point of view. All right, so the structure for both of them is that from a structure point of view, it's the annexes, it follows the same annex structure. Okay, so but it places less emphasis on integrating with other standards. So for ISO 27001, most other standards, your ISO 9000 and 9001, most of the other ISO standards have the same structure. So the same structure where you have your scope, you have your references, you have your terms and conditions, you have your roles, and each of those different structures, they're always relatable, especially when it comes to aligning with other standards. Okay. And then another thing again to look at is the annex control. So like I said, the previous control contains 114 controls across 14 categories. Okay. And then the new um, controls for the new ISO 27001 2022 as 93 controls. So the difference between both of them is the number of controls. The control has been reduced, and then it has been cascaded to ensure that it's only focusing on they are based on the current threat landscape. It's only focusing on the appropriate controls that is actually needed. Okay, so also the new controls. So 14, the lack of these two categories beyond the original 14. So these controls has actually been reduced as well to the 14 clauses that you used to have, across the 14 categories you used to have in the previous 2013 version. And then you also have, so this is the four different distinct clauses that you have. So the 93 controls has been divided into four different categories, and this category spans across clauses 5 to 8. Okay, and then let's also look at it from a risk management point of view. It also focuses on risk and the treatment, but with less emphasis on holistic approach. So the holistic approach here also embracing using the people, the processes, and then also technology. So it leverages on those three benchmark when it comes to enhancing the providing a comprehensive risk management process for an organization. So for another thing to also look at, okay, is in terms of the context of the organization. So the context here focuses only on understanding the context, but less on the formal structure. Okay, so for the latest one, provides more context in terms of what the organization is all about, and then it tries to tailor it into the ISMS system. And then in terms of documentation, the documentation is much more flexible from the latest version as compared to the previous one. And then from a supply chain security, it also ensures that it includes supply chain when it comes to identifying risk in supply chain. So there's a dedicated control that helps you to be able to identify supply chain type of risk. And this is also based on looking at the how the threat landscape has also evolved over time. And then also it also allows you to be able to integrate with other management systems. So you want to integrate your ISMS into your management system, into your quality management system. But that integration, it's more easier for you to be able to integrate into other ISO standards as well. And then the continuous improvement, they pay stronger emphasis on continuous improvement, ensuring that you address the non-conformities, ensuring that you pay adequate attention in improving your ISMS, your information security management system in general. Okay, so this brings us to the end of this module. I know it's a very long one, but I definitely want to congratulate you for sticking this long. Also, this module has been able to help you, understand the standard, its evolution, and also the reasons why organization adopt it for information security. Okay, so as well as the ability to distinguish, we've also looked at how you can distinguish between 2013 and 2022 version. So thank you very much. I look forward to seeing you in my next module. Bye for now.